G'day guys, Jason Nick here from the Udderfarm. Welcome to another episode of Around the Fire. We're actually camping here on the Udderfarm now for a few days, about a week I think, week and a half. So we decided to smash a few of these out. So every couple of days, because we've got a load of questions we've got to catch up on. We haven't done any for a while because we've been busy trying to get some fencing up, some timeless fencing. So that's going well. We actually woke up this morning at about 4 o'clock and I think it was 4 degrees on the phone. So there wasn't a chance I was getting a cold out at 4 o'clock when she seen that temperature. So we come out as the sun was rising. So Nicole wanted to sleep in.
Plus it's my day off.
She had a busy week and it's a day off, and so we thought we'd throw one in there around the fire while we're having a cup of tea.
Yeah.
So hope you guys are well. Like I said, it's winter time over here and it's a beautiful time for us to be camping. So we love our winter camping out here. So sit around the fire both morning and night. Not so much the morning because we're working by now, but trying to catch up on some Q&As and a bit of R&R, a bit of rest and relaxation. So
no rest for the wicked.
Well, that's Nicole. She's the wicked, but yeah. But anyway, I'll hand it over to Nicole and she can throw in the first question.
Okay. This one's from Nathan. And
Nate.
He says, "G'day guys, just a thought. The flaps, lids, could you slowly over a period of a few days, weeks, loosen the ratchet off and lower the flaps down so they could get used to pushing them up out of the way?" So we're talking about the mineral feeder then, are we?
Yep. I ended up going, so it's obviously Nathan's seen the video of me struggling when I first put it down there. The first 24 hours I didn't lift it at all because of the weight. They never not used to it. Put grain in it and it brought them back to it, but they still weren't used to comfortable lifting the flap up. So I ended up using the ratchet strap to put it up. So, and that's a great idea, Nathan. After I read that, I thought that was a perfect way to do it. So I have loosened it off to the point where it's halfway now and they're comfortable putting their head in, but I just haven't got past that. But I will. Like I said, I'm only doing it at the moment when they're in the trial property. When they're out here continual grazing, I haven't started the process out of here, but I will when the cell's going. But in town it works. They're comfortable, it's nudging that little bit. So yeah, from that question, jotted my memory, and when I went down there, I actually started that process. So thanks for that, Nathan, because I was wondering myself how I was going to get him to eventually lift that flap. So from those recommendations, well, that suggestion, it actually works. We just got to go the rest of the way now and have the flap fully down. So, but I'm assuming any new calves come along from a young age, because a lot of these calves we had, or cows we should say, they're pretty well matured now, 4 or 5 years old. Any new calf would see their mum doing it, so as they're growing up it would be natural to them to go to that mineral feeder and put their head in. So as they grow up, I'm assuming they're not going to have hesitation with eventually lifting that flap up. It's just the older cows because I'm not used to it. But yeah, that definitely did work, Nate. I lowered it down and they've just nudged it now to get in. So great question, mate. And
yeah, it was.
And on to the next one.
Okay. This is from Holden V8 Superstar. That's a different name, isn't it?
Yeah. I preferred Land Cruisers myself.
I knew you would have to make a joke like that.
Great name, though.
Sorry.
V8 Superstar. You can't go wrong with a V8.
And this person is asking, have you considered a controlled burn-off?
So I know you got that video. That would be the video when I was talking about virgin ground over in the far corner. When I had the girls out of the paddock doing that virgin ground and that long grass, we got burn piles next to the neighbouring fence.
Yep.
So with that one, I do believe there is a place for controlled burn-offs, but I don't believe so on this property. I wouldn't do it, and the reasons I would say why I wouldn't do it on this property is because there's nothing really warranted for a controlled burn. The issue I've got with controlled burning is you've got a thatch layer on the ground. Well, we're trying to build a thatch layer on the ground. Over there was no thatch layer. If you had a look at the video, go back, Breaking Virgin Ground, I parted that long grass and there was bare dirt underneath that ground because the sun hadn't been penetrating through for many years, and that's why the height of that grass wasn't allowing the sun to get through. It was darkness, killed the grass regrowth underneath, and we're just bare dirt, sporadic clumps of grass, tall grass, bare dirt around it. but still, I still wouldn't burn it, because what I did there, Mr. V8 Superstar Holden, I'd try and make another joke, but it's not time for a joke.
No.
But yeah,
no.
what I tried to do there is have the cattle use the forage that they could to get some form of energy. But not only that, I put them in tight areas. They laid a fair bit of that carbon over the ground. Like I mentioned, it was bare dirt under that grass. By laying it over, was starting off building that thatch cycle. Not only that, they were laying it over, and also when the rain would hit, it would slow the impact of the water drops. That's the worst thing you can have for compaction. But after that video, once they'd gone through, there's still stalky stuff left. I went through with me slasher, which evenly distributes the mulch at the back, and that laid that organic matter and that thatch on the surface, which protects the protects the soil from the sun, and also gives you that protection, that rain barrier from the compaction of the rain. It would slowly hit that mulch, which I've laid down, and seep through. The moment you do a burn, this is what I'm getting to, control burn. The moment you burn, you're losing all that organic material. What your cows could have been eaten. You've got no thatch laid over. You've got no residue left on the ground because you've just burned it. It's going back to bare soil. By slashing it, I'm building and maintaining or trying to make an armour on the surface. By burning whatever thatch I had. If I went through now and burnt my property, control burn my whole property, the years of that thatch layer that I've built to try and hold that moisture in the ground to stop the sun penetrating and pulling the moisture out would be gone. You'd be back to bare dirt. All that composting top layer of thatch is gone, destroyed. So you're back to square one. Bare dirt, sunlight, preying on rain to grow your grass back. You're not holding moisture because you've just burnt all that thatch off the ground. So, like I said, there is places for control burn, but on my property it's not warranted, and I can't say never, but I'm almost 98%, 99% I would never do a burn on this property, apart from burn piles, which is our weed piles and those kind of stuff. If we ever get rid of timber or some weeds, we do a burn pile there. And it's the same place. We burn in the same place every time to reduce the weed burden to that one location. So I hope I answered that question.
I hope you did too.
I think I gave it a good crack. So I'll crack on to the next one. I think I've got two more. We're going to try and get them in 15 minutes, so pretty sure I can do it.
Time limit. Okay. Next one is from Cameron McDonald.
Hey Cam.
Cameron. And he said, "Hi Jason, great video and mineral feeder. Quick question, what type of salt do you use or recommend, as there are quite a few on the market, from white salt to iodized salt and to trace mineral salt? Or would it be better to have a mixture?"
Well, on that one, Cam, for my recommendation, so when you talk plain white salt, the plain white salt, bit of tongue twister, you've got in your kitchen, and what they use in the catering industry has been highly refined to a point that it only contains sodium chloride. In white salt, like I mentioned, they use in your kitchen and catering service because it's gone through, it's been that chemically refined. That's all you're purchasing. So even though it's safe for livestock, there's not enough trace minerals to balance a forage-only diet for your livestock, particularly horses. They need the trace elements. So it's not dangerous, it just hasn't got the trace elements. So I use stuff like natural minerals and sea salts because they either have little to no refining in them at all. So they haven't gone through chemical treatments, which is then going to break down and deplete all the trace minerals. So, and there's a magnitude of trace minerals in salt. I think we've done a video on it. I think it's up to like 80 trace minerals, Stuff like,
quite interesting, actually.
You don't realise how much trace minerals, you've got potassium, you've got magnesium, you've got iron, you've got calcium. Like I said, there's a magnitude of trace elements in there. So, and they play a major role in the health and performance of your livestock. So, yeah, mate, I would then, like I said, most of your rural supplies would have the mineral salts and sea salts. I wouldn't expect to see a bag of home brand catering blend
No.
white plain salt sitting on the shelf of a real supply. Because,
No.
unless there's been
Definitely
a major salt deficiencies and we can't get any of that, and there's
Yeah.
and maybe another global pandemic and the trucks can't bring the salt in, we can only get plain malt salt, I would probably stick to using your mineral salt and your sea salt from your real supply. I think Nick's trying to get that fire going, but I don't know if you can see her. We couldn't see her last night because it was dark. I don't think you can see her today because of the smoke screen.
I'm not winning.
Oh, she's crying. I think she's that impressed with my answer. It's either that or the smoke's getting in her eyes.
Yeah, I wonder which one.
I'll let Nick go on to the next question, and I'll try and help her out here.
Oh, you're in my way, doll.
Oh, righty Odie.
Oh, that made all the world of difference.
Sorry.
Good effort, doll. Okay, the next one is from Dominic O'Driscoll, and he said, "Good video.
Hey,
thanks for the explanation. Pretty clear difference. Do you need to slash at a certain grass age? For example, if you let it get too long, would it suppress new growth?"
So, Dom's, I've seen the comment from this question. It's come from building topsoil video where I was standing in the pasture yay high. So,
okay.
we've got areas in this property, Dom. Obviously, you would have seen from the video that I don't that I don't graze because there's no fence there. Pull the fence line down, and we're still in the process of putting timeless fencing up. So, and I think when he meant about prime example, a perfect example is I done that video was because I've slashed over there. I do that probably twice a year in that zone, or sometimes 3 times, because what I let, a lot of it's predominantly Rhodes grass. So when it comes up and it gets to the seed head and the seed drops, because it's not being grazed, I don't mind it to get to the point where it's almost oxidised, which have no energy. And I'm counting on all those seeds dropping to get germination to thicken up that area. And then I go through with the slasher and slash it to a foot high. So I'm still keeping a good foot of plant, which has still got your solar panel and your leaf collectors, because you need that to pump the carbon dioxide and the sunlight into the ground to feed the microbes. So, and also to build your soil. That's a different question. So that, when he says perfect example, what I did in that video is I actually went through, pulled the grass apart and had that layer of thatch. And then I dug it up, and we had rain 2 weeks before and it was still wet like mud underneath. I went across the fence line where I'd continual graze my paddock, and this would be on most continual graze properties where you're not specifically high intensity grazing, is I parted the soil. You can see bare dirt, and I could not pick up any of that dirt. Even with a stick, I tried to lift it, and it was dry because the sun, like I keep mentioning, it hasn't got that thatch layer, and it's drawing out the sunlight. So it's dry compared to the other, wet like mud. So
Big difference.
I would say height-wise, mate, you don't particularly, I let that come to seed because I'm not grazing it. In paddocks where I am grazing, here on the continual graze on property, I maybe once a year, twice a year, and that's normally around winter when it has actually oxidised. The cows have gone through eating the forage they can in the leaf matter, and normally I've had a killing frost over it. Then I've got no choice, and I like to slash. You give it a sabbatical before winter, summer rains come to get that thatch on the ground, because I'm not intensity grazing. I've got no armour on the ground in those locations, so I've got to artificially put the armour down by slashing that grass. When it oxides, slash it foot high, still leaving a foot of the pasture on the ground, and that way I'm building up my armour artificially until I can start high intensity grazing. So I would say, mate, if your pastures come to seed and you've got cows in there, like I've got areas in the paddock now, we're halfway through winter nearly, and it's oxidised. I know the cows aren't going to eat it. So it's at the point where they're eating all the armour. If it comes to that point, slash it, but you don't want to be scalping it down to the ground, short as possible. I bought a wood slasher. I'm going to do a video on that. I can have it set at 300, a foot high, and I searched for ages to get a slasher that would go the maximum height, and it leaves a foot. If you scalp it down, especially now in winter, come summer, if you get no rain, you're actually going to dry out all that soil. So you want to be find a slasher, the woods is perfect, that cuts a foot high, so you still leave an armour, so the sun don't penetrate through and dry that soil out for you.
And so, it doesn't leave woodrows.
No, windrows, like the normal slasher.
Yeah.
I've got to do a video on that too, compare it the old to the new.
Yeah.
So
so
that's seed, mate. It's But yes, you don't want to leave it there for years on end. That's the other part of the question. Like I said, that in the same video we just mentioned, over breaking virgin ground, that was left for years, 3-4 years before we bought the property, and that was dead. It does suppress the grass underneath because the sun can't get through. If you let it go too long, too spindly, out of control, the sun won't get through, and the grass will be suppressed and die underneath. But that does take a lot. That is different grass over there. That grass stuff grows 6 foot high. Your average road grass or pastoral grass won't get that high. It'll stay probably 2 or 3 foot high. And if you're not leaving it for years on end, every couple of years on the trial property, I do a sabbatical. So I mow it over. I'm going to try and get away from that. This year we haven't done it at all. It's come to seed, it's starting to oxide now, but last year I did the same because I don't want to be slashing it religiously every year. It comes to a point where I've got the thatch there. When the rain comes in spring, the regrowth or the green growth comes through the dead, and the cows are selectively walked through. So I will take 6 head of cattle into that 0.1 of an acre, and it'll be ultra high density. So I'm forcing them to not only eat green, but they'll be getting a mouthful of dry as well. So coming out of summer where they haven't had much green grass, too much green grass high in protein is going to give them the run. So that'll actually, when they're taken through, they're taking the fibre in the dead grass as well as the high protein in the green, so their manure won't be like diarrhea. So it'll sort of bung them up a little bit, and also they'll trample that down. So that'll be putting that dead grass on the ground, and they'll be getting green grass. So that alleviates me using petrol, time, and compressing the soil with the tractor. And that's what I plan doing here once I start cell grazing. Leaving it there and using the cattle lay the grass over just every 3 years. So next year on the trial property, I'll probably end up slashing it, because it comes to the point there's a higgledy-piggledy over the shop, foot high, even it out, and then maybe every 3 years do a sabbatical. Here I'm doing it every 12 months because it's been continual graze, like I mentioned. There's no thatch on the ground. So I'm probably going over the same stuff here. I'll pull up at that because I think I mentioned that before. I'm getting passionate.
Passionate.
Sorry, I am passionate. So is that the last question?
Yeah, it was, thank goodness.
Well, don't start me, guys. You just won't stop me. I'm trying to hold it to 15 minutes. Oh dear. Anyway, guys, we're going to have some bacon and eggs now, and get a bit of work. Got some timeless fencing we want to do through a gully today, so I'm going to do a video on that. So as you can see, this is an add-on to the end of the Q&A. We forgot to mention it during the video. So the most important thing is that come August, we're going to be heading up to Mount Isa Rodeo, which is the biggest rodeo in the Southern Hemisphere in Australia.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. 34,000
odd people, and over a 4-day event. So we're excited. We're staying in one of the, we're going to take the car up, but we're staying in one of the tents they've already got set up. So they've got a few hundred tents for people to purchase on their tickets rather than take your own car, because we've done most of the trip. So we're just going to fly up there and get away for 4 days. And also that's between the 9th, 10th and 11th of August, because I know I'm up there for my birthday. So I know it's during that period. And then we got the country music muster, the Gympie Country Music Muster at Emmamore State Forest. It's outside of Gympie, and that is in August. The end of August, 24th or something, around that. And it's another 4-day event. So so what we're going to do, guys, is like we done the CMC, we're going to offer you guys, if you guys come up and introduce yourselves and say g'day to us, those that come up and have a chat, we got some presents. We got stubby coolers and hats we're taking with us. We'll take a selection, a few, maybe 3 or 4, 5 of each or something, 4 of each. Yeah. And those that come up and introduce themselves and say g'day, you get to choose whether you want a hat or a stubby cooler. So that'll be for the rodeo and also for the muster. Yeah. So both, jumping early, guys. We'll be walking around. I think we plan taking up our work shirt. So
I might wear a dress one day though.
You haven't got a logo on the dress.
Oh, well, maybe we need to think about that then.
Anyway, you'll have to you have to remember our faces or our work shirt, or just know what it look like, and come up and say good day, introduce yourselves to get those prizes. Yeah. And yes, that's probably it.
Yeah, I think so.
Now we've got to head off and have breakfast.
Yeah. And you can give away your stubby curl, it's not mine.
Oh, I don't want yours, because yours is well and truly worn out. Righto, guys.
Well, they work.
So anyway, guys, have a good morning. Have a awesome afternoon and a terrific evening, guys. wherever you're watching this from, and we'll catch you later.